everyone, I'm Tara Jones and I'm here with my special little guest, Valencia. If any of you have followed any of my YouTube videos, this is my newest little mare. She's 7, she's a Morgan. She is not broke to ride yet, and today we're going to do something pretty exciting for you. So I'm actually going to put the bridle on her for the first time. I really have honestly not done any bridle work with her at all. I figured it would be a really neat video just to see me go through the steps. It might get a little lengthy, but I'm just going to go ahead and do what I normally do because we've done a ton of cavesson work and I've lunged her. I've taught her to go over cavalettis and ground poles. We've round penned and we're on to the next part. So it's time for her to start some of the bit work that she's going to be doing in prep for her to be saddled. So I have one of my Peaceful Solutions bridles here. I'm just going to undo the noseband because it'll make it a little bit easier for fitting. I'm just going to put her in a basic full cheek snaffle for right now. But before I even touch the bit or the bridle, I want to make sure I go through my prerequisite cues. So I did do a few videos back, I don't know, about a couple weeks ago about all of the prerequisite cues for teaching your horse to be bridled. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to apply pressure downward so that the halter, the top part of the halter, comes across her pole. And all I'm looking for her to do is just lower in response to that pressure. And once she does that, I'm just going to go ahead and release. Now, I know you're probably watching saying, I don't see any release, I don't see anything lowering. If I feel just a slight relaxation in her pole, I'm just giving her that little break. And you can see I'm kind of swaying her nice and gently back and forth because she is in fact locked. So that pole area of her head right behind, nice job girl, that pole area is pretty locked for her. So I'm just going to keep asking her to lower her head and neck. Sorry, I'm screeching, just put that to the side. And we're just going to keep practicing this until this is pretty decent. And I just want to make sure that she understands that when she feels pressure on her pole to go ahead and lower. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step because my end result is going to be that she's going to be giving me a gentle hug, that when I apply pressure with my base of my hand, basically right here at the palm, right before where my wrist starts, I'm going to start applying pressure just in the same fashion until she starts lowering and dropping her head. And V is really a pretty sensible mare. She doesn't really put up a lot of fight about anything. She's very willing. The only thing that I have noticed about V is she pins her ears sometimes when something seems like a lot of work, and that'll go away. She seems to get pretty much everything that I ask her for fairly quickly and relatively easy. So that's really, really awesome. Good girl. So once I have that cue where she's actually lowering her head, by me applying pressure with the palm of my hand, that seems pretty decent. Now I'm just going to take my other hand and I'm going to just steer her nose towards me. And the second that she brings the bridge of her nose towards me, like she is there, just by me applying pressure on the side of her nasal bone, I'm just bringing it slightly towards me. I'm just going to go ahead and release it. And she can raise her head at this point because I'm not asking her to lower it. So we're just basically working on this section of the cue where she would be bringing her head around to give me a hug. I apologize if it gets windy. It might be hard to hear me at moments. Like I said, we're going to go straight through this. Right there, that was perfect, V. So eventually what I would really generally like her to do is when I apply pressure at the bridge of her nose to bring her over, she responds to that. When I apply pressure with the palm of my hand to lower, she responds to that. And basically her head and the base of her ears is a little bit lower than my belt. So I'd like to see her just a little bit lower yet. I'm going to release her on that because that was pretty good. Just going to laterally flex her just a little bit with the bridge of her nose. Now a lot of times what will happen is they'll get stuck. Okay, they'll get almost like a stalemate where you add that pressure and they just kind of stay here, kind of like she is now. She's just sort of like stuck in this spot. So I'm just going to sway her gently back and forth there. It's almost like an unlocking feeling to her so that she begins to lower her head. There, excellent. Be careful not to put your head above their pole because if they suddenly raise their head up, you're going to get hit in the face. I always caution all my students about that. I have had a cracked eye socket from that in the very early days of my career. I wasn't paying attention. A horse swung its head around because something caught its attention and it hit me right in the eye. So make sure that you keep yourself at a safe distance. Just stay a little bit to the side of their pole. And right here, this is pretty good. So now I'm gonna go into the next phase of the cue. So I'm gonna not worry about the pole and the nasal bone, and now I'm just gonna slide 2 fingers, my index finger and my third finger, slide up the corner of her mouth to the spot where there is no teeth, and just tickle slightly until she opens her mouth, just like that. Slide up, tickle until she opens her mouth. And this starts to become a cue so that when I go to the other side with the bit, she has an idea. Sometimes the horses will close their mouth and sort of leave it pursed shut, and that way you always have a cue. The other thing that it's really good for is if when you're taking out the bridle or taking the bridle out of their mouth, and when they go to not release the bit, sometimes I have horses that hold on to the bit and they basically won't let it go. So then I just take the corner, at the corner of their mouth, and I stick my fingers in the corner of their mouth, and then they open up their mouth and the bit is able to fall out. One of the things that's truly important when you're doing this stage or when you're at this step of bridling is that you really do firmly teach your horse cues. There's nothing worse than somebody coming up and slamming a bit right into the horse's teeth. You hear that clanking noise. That is the quickest way for a horse to be like, you are not bridling me, because it hurts. You know, when you're slamming a piece of metal into their teeth, that's not exactly pleasant. So I like to teach them a cue, just open your mouth. Okay, now I'm gonna come to this side, and I'm just gonna take my thumb, as I would be if I were putting the bridle in, or sliding the bit in to insert it. I'm just gonna come to the corner, slide it up to the corner of her mouth until she opens it, and just tickle the roof of her mouth. Good girl. And again, no big deal. Just do make sure that you go to the spot where there are no teeth so you don't accidentally get bit, because there are some sharp teeth. You just want to make sure that you always slide up to where there's none. Okay, so at this point in time, what I like to do is I like to just go over my whole cue system here. Bring her head towards me, lower. I'm going to slide down like this, ask her to open, and that would be when I would insert the bit. I'm going to leave her go, and we're just going to repeat that whole set of cues again. Bring your bridge of your nose towards me, give me a gentle hug. Lower your head below my belt buckle. I'm just going to bring my knee to the side just to brace in case she goes to throw her head to the right. Slide my thumb in, she opens her mouth. One more time, V. Bring your bridge of your nose to the left, lower your head, and right there, if she goes to take her head away, I have a way to bring her back. I'm just going to go ahead and ask again, tickle until she opens, and I'm going to take my hand away. Now, for the first bridling, I will just put it on over the halter. Okay, then once she understands about the bit and the bridle and the halter and the pressure and all of the cues, then I'll go ahead and put it on without the halter, maybe the second, third, fourth time. So I'm just going to reach down here. I'm just going to let the lead rope just lay on the ground there. I'm going to go ahead and put the bridle over my left wrist. I'm going to put the reins over too. I'm going to ask her to come and bring her head to the left and lower her head. Now I'm going to bring the bridle into my right hand, and I'm going to spread the bit open. I'm going to ask her to open. I'm going to gently insert the bit with my right hand, fold her ear over, fold it over again, fix her forelock. I'm just going to tighten it. And you guys, that is the first bridling. No muss, no fuss. She's going to play with the bit. You know, at this point in time, I would just size it for her so that this is nice and fitted and comfortable. My bridles are fully adjustable from the nose bands all the way to the cheek pieces, to the brow bands, to the throat latch. Everything is adjustable. So that way it makes for easy adjustment so that she can learn what the bit and bridle is all about. Now, when I go to take the bridle off, I'm just going to reverse all those cues. Undo the throat latch, undo the nose band, slide one ear at a time. Right here, it's super important that I ask her to lower with the palm of my hand again, bring her nose towards me, and I'm just going to allow her to drop it. Good girl. And there you have it. That was the first bridling, and that was so wonderful. So that's what we go over, and we'll just keep reiterating and going over it again and again until she's really comfortable with that. And it can be that easy. So I do bridlings from a horse that's completely unbroke like her, all the way to a horse that's older who has bridling issues, or a horse that's a problem horse that needs to be reiterated on how to bridle. It's very, very important that you teach your horse to be safe to bridle, and that you also teach your horse a set of cues to be bridled, because that way you won't ever have an issue with it. I've seen a lot of problems with bridling, from horses picking people up flat off the ground and slamming them into stall walls. It is a big issue for some people. I've seen people on step ladders, I've seen 3 people trying to bridle a horse, I've seen people ear twitching, and you name it. But I just showed you with V, this is the very first bridling, and it went so nicely and so calmly and effectively, and she is completely understanding of the whole lesson. So I hope that helps. I just wanted to share that with you. I am going to start sharing a lot more of our little adventures as we go, but I'd like to thank V for joining me in this video. She's been fantastic thus far, and that's it for today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.